This podcast contains some strong language and some stories involving violence. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to Warfighters United, where veterans' voices are heard and transitional resources and programs provided. The podcast is sponsored by the Veterans of Foreign Wars, a service organization that provides our military and veterans resources and representation to our warfighters throughout the nation. They provide the community support and the camaraderie we all miss being in the military. Join the VFW today and make a difference. And welcome to Warfighters United. Today we have a very special guest. He wears one of the most beloved medals that our military can give, the highest award, the Medal of Honor, Sammy L Davis. Sammy, how are you doing today?
Yes, sir. We're doing good. Honored to be here with you.
Yeah, you know, when I met you a long time ago, I would have never thought 10 years later that I'd be sitting here doing a podcast with you. You know, it's almost uncanny. And I was reading through your book last night just as a refresher. And, you know, this year is Vietnam's 50th year of Vietnam going on. It's our 50-year anniversary.
Yes, sir.
And a lot of people were drafted in Vietnam, but you weren't drafted. You actually chose to join right up.
Volunteered for the Army and volunteered to go to Vietnam. Yes, sir.
And so
just trying to do my job.
I remembered a story you were telling me. You were watching TV one day, and there was a person on that TV, and he was a Medal of Honor. Tell me about that. So you looked up at the TV, and what happened?
Well, I looked up the TV, and there was Roger Donlin being presented the Medal of Honor. And I go, wow. And it just made me feel so proud. And I said, well, I need to go do my job. So I did.
Yeah, and so you joined up for Vietnam, and you were in the artillery. What was it like being a young soldier going over to a foreign war?
Well, it was scary, but fulfilling.
When you first arrived to Vietnam, and you know, you had Sergeant Gant, who's also from Lansing, Michigan, where we're recording today.
Yes, sir.
Tell me a little bit about him. When I was reading about that, and it reminds me of some of my drill sergeants back in the day.
Sergeant James Gant was a mean old sergeant, and it wasn't until I got to know him better that I realized that, well, he wasn't mean. He was just trying to do his job. In fact, he loved us kids. He was only 27, but we had just turned 20, so he was 7 years older than me. And I love Sergeant Gant.
Yeah, and when you were talking about how he made you guys do everything with the Howitzers.
Definitely. Yes, sir.
With the blindfold on, you guys were doing charges?
You had to know how to cut the charges, set the time fuse. You could feel it clicking. And so if the time was 19, you clicked her 19 times, you know, with a blindfold on. Of course, he would check it.
So when I was reading that, and I was I was going through some of the stuff. I mean, was it November 18th? There's over 1,500 NVA soldiers that were about to overrun your position?
Heavy Weapons Battalion of NVA, yes, sir.
I could only imagine, knowing that was coming straight your way, what that would have felt like.
Well, we did not know there was that many of them that night. It wasn't until I didn't find out till we got back out of the hospital that it was a reinforced heavy weapons battalion of NVA. And wow, you know, it made me proud that we did such a good job because we held them off. We did our job.
Right. It was what, 1,500 versus 242 Army soldiers?
Yes, sir.
Wow. That's almost 6-1. And you guys came out ahead that day. I mean,
well, we had been well trained on how to do our job, and that's what we did. We did our job.
Yeah, and so I was reading that. So tell me a little bit about how you were awarded the Medal of Honor I mean, I know that, your injuries, you had an AK-47 round in the right thigh, a broken back,
Yes,
crushed
sir.
ribs, burned
Yes,
face,
sir.
hands, arms, and torso, and 30 beehive darts.
Yes, sir.
What? So how did all that entail?
How did it entail? Well,
Yeah. Like how?
the AK-40 round was shot by the NVA. The beehive round was shot by my guys, the gun behind me. They thought that we were all dead because they seen the gun get hit and it looked like everybody was down. And then the NVA came across the river and started trying to turn my gun around. So my guys, the next gun behind us, they did their job. They fired the beehive round with the gun and cleared it off. And that's what woke me up. When the beehive hit me, it woke me up.
You were getting woke up because you got hit by a mortar round before that, and it kind of knocked you unconscious, or?
Concussion, yeah. Yes, sir.
And so when you woke up and you realized you've been hit, reading into the book, you're making sure you still had all your arms and legs.
Right.
But you were attributing somebody upstairs, or somebody just telling you to get back up and get back into the fight.
Most certainly. That's the only answer I've ever been able to come up with, was how I made it through and was able to do my job, wounded as badly as I was, and I just trusted the one above.
And so when you turned that howitzer around, and as the mortar round had already hit in that spot, all of your ammunition was around, like in different spots.
Yes, it would balloon everywhere.
And
some of it was far enough I never did find it, but some of it was. So I'd crawl around and find this and find that. And the powder it broke the bag, so the powder was just in piles. I'd just scoop it up with my hands and put it in. I was filling the canister full, because when you put all 7 bags of powder in it, it fills. Well, it's got about 4 or 5 inches from the top of the canister, and I was filling it full of loose powder. And after I fired a couple rounds out of it with that much powder, I decided, well, I shouldn't fire that much in it because it was sliding backwards unbelievably. So I cut the powder down, and I was just shooting right across the river, so I could see and it was still doing its job, so the reduced powder worked fine.
And so can you explain what beehive darts are? For people that don't know artillery at all, what was the beehive round like?
The beehive round has 1,800 little darts in it. They look like little arrows, got fins on them, and they're steel. And it works wonderful.
And so how many different times were the NVA, how many different times did you almost get overran? I know there was like 2 or 3 different regiments coming through time after time after time.
That night?
Yes.
Yeah, they would, like I say, we only thought there was a couple hundred, and come to find out later that there was a reinforced heavy weapons battalion of NVA. So as soon as they would find out that their guys needed more help, well, they'd send more guys in, and there come a new crew.
And so you're firing the howitzer. When was it that you noticed the guys across the river?
Well, I could see them almost immediately.
And they were waving a boonie hat, and that's how you knew that they were American soldiers?
Oh, my guys, yeah, the 3, yeah. In the foxhole, yeah. They would kind of all stand up at the same time and wave their boonie hats and get back down. And I go, oh, wow. Somebody's got to go get them.
And
so I did.
I was thinking about the resilience you must have had with all these injuries from Morty being hit a few times and shot. Somehow you were able to find blow-up beds or cots?
No, the little air mattress was what we slept on in Vietnam. That was our bed. You just blowed it up and slept on it. And it was an air mattress.
And so you swam across the river. Meanwhile, everything is still going on, and you get over to them, and you realize instead of 1, there was 3.
Right.
And so...
Well, I knew I couldn't do 3 trips, so I got all 3 of them on the two could hang on, and Jim Deister, we thought he was dead, but I wasn't going to leave his body over there because I could see what they were doing with the other infantrymen that were there on the ground dead, and I wasn't going to allow that to happen, so I just put Jim and held him on the mattress and brought him across, and come to find out, he survived.
He did?
Yes.
Wow. And
Jim Deister lives in Salina, Kansas, and his grandchildren call me Grandpa Sam. I love it.
I think you were telling me a story one day when we were here in Lansing last year, helping with the Civil War battle flag to save it. You were telling me that you went and saw him afterwards, and
oh, definitely.
And I think it was right as he had a newborn baby that you went and saw him.
Yes, sir.
And man, you know, if you wouldn't have done what you did, that picture probably would have never happened.
Well, no, sir. He would not have survived because he was shot through the head and shot through the chest. But me going and getting him, bringing him over, and then medics treating him properly, and it worked. Thank you, sir.
And you had to play dead for a little bit, you know, as the, so tell me about that, because I've watched movies and I've seen things, but I mean, I could only imagine what it'd be like to, you know, just not know what's happened next.
When there's that many enemy and that few U.S. soldiers, they would come running at us. Well, if you were up running around, that's the ones that got shot. So if it didn't take but a couple of times to realize, okay, lay down, hold still. So I would lay down and hold still, like I was dead.
Well,
yes, talking with the other guys.
I could only picture that, and I know out of the 42 men of you guys that started that day, only 12 lived out of that.
No, there's only 12 alive today.
Oh, 12 alive today.
None of our guys got killed that night. I believe all of us were wounded.
Oh, okay.
But we survived. No, we survived.
Oh, man. And so even after you kind of pass out and then you wake up in a hospital, right?
Yes, sir.
You know, you didn't stop then. And in fact, and so I was reading about General Westmoreland, and a few weeks before that night, you got a pair of boots from him one day.
Yes, sir. Westy served in the 9th Infantry Division in World War II. So now he took care of all of his troops. He loved all the troops, but he seemed to have visited the 9th Infantry Division just a little bit more often than the rest of the troops. And Westy would just helicopter come in and land wherever we were working at that time. And of course, we were artillery, so we moved around all over. And the helicopter would land and General Westmoreland get off. Of course, that just scared the heck out of us. And that's how we met. And
so tell me about the hospital. You're in there and you know, they're telling you that you're probably going to have to go home. And what did you say to those doctors and to those colonels that were telling you that?
Well, I said, I don't want to go home. I want to go back to Vietnam and be with my brothers. Well, you can't do that, Private. Well, when General Westmoreland came, he came up to the bed and started talking, and I asked him if I could go back to Vietnam. He said, well, I'll have to talk to the doctors. And I told General Westmoreland, I said, well, I really need to go back and be with my brothers. I can't just leave them in the jungle. And he understood that, and he said, well, we'll see how soon you can get your body healed up. And within a few weeks, I was back in Vietnam.
Yeah, and you actually had to pull a piece of paper out of your pocket and give it to him, saying that General Westmoreland was allowing you to go back?
Oh, definitely, yes. Yeah, I had paperwork.
Yeah, and when I was reading that, you talked about the 3 days in a row you had to walk a certain distance and do certain things to be able to be viable to go back.
To prove to them that I could do it, yes.
And so there was a guy that happened to be in the hospital that was there with you that night when you earned the Medal of Honor. And I was reading it, and he was talking about how you tried to take you down the stairs, and you guys all fell.
Yeah, Glendale.
And of course, you didn't tell anybody that you guys fell down those stairs.
Say again?
I said, of course, you didn't tell anybody that you fell down those stairs.
No, of course not.
And so a couple weeks go by, you heal, and you go back to your unit. And I know you're
They sent me to the hospital in Camp Zama, Japan. And I stayed there for a few days, and Westy come seen me over there, and that's when he said, okay, son, we'll take you back and see how you do. So I got sent back to Saigon. Within a few days, I was back in my unit.
And you became a cook?
Yeah, that's what my captain said. Well, I don't know. Well, I can't repeat exactly what he said, but he said, you can't go out on the guns because Bob was all shot up, bandages and everything. So he made me a cook, and that's how I became a cook in the Army.
And so you actually, even after being that damaged, that hurt, you finished out your whole year in Vietnam.
Yes, sir.
When was it that you found out that you were going to get our nation's highest award?
Well, I don't know, it was a few weeks before I actually got to come home that they said you had been put in for the Medal of Honor. And I thought, well, I don't think I'll get the Medal of Honor. I didn't believe I deserved the Medal of Honor. And it wasn't until I got back stateside and went to Fort Hood, Texas, that the captain there would come and post me on what was happening with the Medal of Honor. And it's in this part of Congress, it's in this part of Congress. And finally they said, well, you're going to be presented the Medal of Honor. And at that time, they did not have an exact date, but they said it'll be in November. I said, okay. And then they said, well, it'll be November the 19th, I believe. 1 year and 1 day after the actual battle.
Wow. And, just being able to wear our nation's highest award, I know with talking with you in the past, you don't wear it because of yourself. I
wear it for my brothers.
All of the brothers.
That's right. Yes, sir.
And I'm thinking back. So you went, and was it President Johnson that awarded you the Medal of Honor at the White House?
Yes, sir. Have you seen the movie Forrest Gump?
I have.
Okay.
And
that is my actual footage. They just put, when the president's presenting the Medal of Honor to Forrest Gump, that is my actual footage. They just put Tom's face over mine.
And so you mentioned Forrest Gump. When did you find out that they were going to make a movie about your actions in Vietnam?
Oh, many years later. Many years later.
And that's where you met the Gary Sinise?
Oh, yes, sir.
And so for those of you who have never watched Forrest Gump, Gary Sinise is Lieutenant Dan.
That's right.
And how did that, when you start thinking about some of the stuff that they portray in that movie, I mean, what is it like to not only be a part of something like that? That movie was the biggest hit when it came out. I mean, what was it like just to have that kind of recognition in having a movie made about some of your story?
Well, it was and is awesome. My wife Dixie and I are still on the road 200 plus days a year traveling and speaking, and we speak to as many schools as we can. And of course, all the kids now have all seen the movie Forrest Gump, and they ask questions, and we travel and speak to corporations, and they always ask about the movie Forrest Gump, so I tell them that so everybody knows about it.
Yeah. And you know what I find most humbling is that, even, almost 45 years later, you are traveling 200 plus days a year, not only to tell your story, but to help the communities, to help schools, to show kids that nothing's impossible. That's
right. You don't lose until you quit trying.
Yes.
And that's what I tell all the school kids, no matter what you're faced with, you don't lose until you quit trying. And the really neat thing is, because I've been doing it for 45 years, the amount of people that come up to me now that I spoke to, they said, you spoke to us when I was in the 6th grade, and you came and talked to us, and you told us that no matter what, we don't lose until we quit trying. And Sergeant Davis, I haven't quit trying yet. And it's awesome.
Is that why you, when you wrote your book, it's called
Yes, sir.
If You Don't Lose Until You Quit Trying?
That's right. You don't lose until you quit trying.
And I tell you, for anybody out there that likes to read military books, this is definitely one you'd have to read. It not only dictates everything that you went through from being a child, but up to the military. Now, a lot of your family was in the military, Sammy?
Yes, sir. Grandpa's on both sides. My dad, 2 older brothers were in the military, all the males. That's why when I graduated from high school, I said, well, I'll go do my job. I've joined and that's because that's when Vietnam was just starting to build up and get big. So I went and did my job.
I mean, you definitely did a job. Good luck. Good job on, the Lord was looking out for you, not only that day, but I'm sure many other days before that.
Well, he's still looking out for me.
And even after, you got out, so when you went to the White House, I could only imagine, was your brothers and your mom and dad with you there when you got awarded?
Yes, sir. Not all my brothers weren't able to be there, but just my little brother John was there. Excuse me, and my mom and dad and my grandpa and grandma. It was wonderful.
And so now you're seeing, we're starting to give out more Medal of Honors for the Iraq and Afghanistan wars. And,
yes,
and you see these younger warfighters that have earned our nation's highest award. And do they ever ask you about, what they're going to do for the next 40 years like you've been doing? Or?
Of course, just like I asked the same questions to Roger Donlin and Pappy Boynton and Jimmy Doolittle, and basically the answers that they gave me is the same answers I give the new kids when they come into the Medal of Honor Society.
Veterans, don't leave benefits on the battlefield. VetServe delivers intel, firepower, and follow-through from VA mortgage loans and real estate to financial services and disability. Deploy to vetserve.us.
We're always looking, and I was just talking to our state quartermaster, Barry Walters. He's an artillery guy that spent 4 years in Vietnam. And we were talking about what it was like, during the Tet Offensive and coming home, and about how everything was so undecided, and how all of you Vietnam veterans stood up and almost unified to make sure that nobody had to go through the things that you guys went through on your way home.
Yes, sir. That's one of the reasons why I started traveling and speaking, was to encourage everybody to stand up for what you believe is right. Because what I discovered was that those people that were protesting us, it was really a very small population or percent of the population. But the majority of the people, well, they were staying home. They'd received on TV and said, well, that's a shame. Well, that's when I knew I had to encourage all the people to stand up for what you believe is right. And it's worked.
Yeah, I know it was a big hit when you came here to Lansing last year. And
oh, that was a great gathering. Yes, sir.
And we're about to get that Civil War battle flag back here, and hopefully within the month. And on July 4th of 2025, we're hoping to have a welcome home party for it. And we
awesome.
couldn't have done it without your help. And so I totally appreciate that.
Well, it was a wonderful event. Yes, sir.
And when I think about holding that nation's highest award, what is it that makes that award so prestigious in your mind, Sammy?
What makes it so prestigious? Well, there's only 61 living recipients today from history, and that makes it very prestigious. The people that I've met that are Medal of Honor awardees, wow, that's awesome, and that makes it prestigious in my heart, and it's a very unique medal.
And while you were in Lansing, we were talking one morning. You actually had the opportunity, and I don't know if I can ask this or not, but you had the opportunity to go overseas again way later.
Yes, sir. We went back in 2016. My wife and I and Jim Deister and his wife. Jim Deister was one of the three men that I swam across the river for. And we got to go back to Vietnam, and our State Department worked with their State Department. We got to meet with 5 of our former enemy and had a afternoon dinner lunch. And the first hour was kind of touchy because that was our enemy. But once we started talking, they felt basically the same way that we did. And we came together as former enemy that afternoon, and when we left that evening, we left as brothers. It was very good, wonderful.
Did that kind of make everything go full circle?
It made it feel much better, yes, sir.
So,
I mean, I still have nightmares, and because that's what actually happened.
Yeah.
But it's more justified in my heart now, so it's better. It just hasn't went away yet.
And so we've been to some of the same programs, and I had Alex on from the 22 Project, and we're hoping to, over the next 3 years, make the hyperbaric oxygen chamber treatment
Excellent.
proven treatment for the VA and for our guys with traumatic brain injury.
It definitely helps.
But you've been doing that for how long?
Oh, how long have I been doing the hyperbaric chamber treatments, Dixie? 8 years.
8 years.
Yes, sir.
And how much has that helped with not only the headaches and how has that helped you in the long run over the last 8 years?
I have less headaches, and they're less severe than I had for many years. But the hyperbaric treatment has helped my muscles, my joints. It's helped my liver and kidneys, my heart. I mean, everything. To see the difference after I started doing all the hyperbaric chamber treatments, well, the doctor said my liver was getting ready to just not work anymore. And we went in to talk to the doctor and about my kidneys and my liver. And he said, well, these organs don't normally get better, but we're hoping that we can find something that will make them not get worse anymore. And so I would go back every 2 or 3 months, and they would check me out again, and went in, sat down with him, and he's going through his paperwork, and his eyes got big, and he said, wow, your liver and kidneys are almost up to normal function. And it was a hyperbaric chamber that had helped.
Wow. And
yeah, wow.
Yeah. And so I had the opportunity to go down to the 22 Project in Boca Raton, and if anybody's interested in that, you can always go to warfightersunited.com, and there's a hyperlink. But, I mean, it did wonders for me as well. And then I found out that, you were also going down there. And
yes, sir.
And then I had the opportunity to meet you at a fundraiser down there years later after Kokomo. And then,
yes,
one thing led to another. And so what other, you go read at schools. And so I had the opportunity the other day to read to a 4th grade classroom with my service dog, Valor. And, I'm always amazed. What is the number one question that you get from a school child or a school kid?
Well, a lot of really unique questions. Sergeant Davis, how bad does it hurt to get shot? That's just a common question. But the questions I always tell them, I will answer any question that you give me. So you never know for sure what kind of questions they're going to ask, but I always tell them the truth. Always tell them the truth.
And so how long are you going to keep traveling the road, 200 plus days? I
hope so. As long as the good Lord gives me the strength to do it, I'm going to continue doing it.
Well, I am just amazed when I think about everything that you do, not only for our country, But for anybody that you come across, whether it's VFWs, American Legions, DAVs, veterans that you'll meet,
Yes, sir.
You are a living legend, at least in my mind, and I hope you don't mind me saying that.
Well, thank you, brother.
If everybody had the outlook that you have, just imagine how great the world would be.
Well, that's one of the reasons why if we continue speaking is because I want to encourage everybody to stand up for what you believe is right in your heart. And it's working. God bless them.
Oh, it's definitely working. And I know I got Doug Pickle sitting here next to me.
Oh, Doug.
Yeah.
Hey, Sam.
So, Doug, if you want, you can say hello in the mic there. It's still on.
I can hear him.
Brother.
Not bad for an old dude. How you doing?
He's a little shy in the radio. He hasn't done this in a while, if you believe it or not. But we were just talking about some of the plaques that Doug makes, and I know that we've made you a Purple Heart plaque, a couple of them. And I think here shortly, Jim McClellan, another Medal of Honor recipient that you recommended for Doug to award. And so Doug's been making that plaque for Jim.
Oh, excellent.
And on September 5th, I believe that he's going to be able to award it to Jim.
Oh, where are you going to do that at? Do you know yet?
Do you know where he's going to do it at, Doug?
He's going to do it up at Legends Ranch in Whiteley, Michigan during their Purple Heart Hunt.
So okay. That's where Jim's... That's the area where Jim's from. That's cool.
Up as a special guest.
Yeah, so awesome. Legends Ranch on September 5th is where Doug's going to award Jim McClellan the Purple Heart plaque, and
that'll be wonderful.
We are just starting our POW MIA wall stuff too. So in Isle Park, is it Isle Park, Doug? Island Park over in Mount Pleasant.
Island.
We are just starting to raise funds to make a wall with every POW or missing in action from the state of Michigan to be put on that wall, and some statues.
That'll be great.
Yeah, over 100 statues.
It's going to be over 100 statues.
Oh, wow.
Life-size statues of each.
Life-size. Oh, wow.
From the Civil War.
So, yes, from the Civil War on, any POW or missing in action from the state of Michigan, we're going to be building that wall over the next couple of years and building those statues to make sure that they are never forgotten in America's mind and Michigan's mind. And
that's wonderful.
And I know that
Thank you.
You being from Vietnam, there's a lot of missing in action and POWs.
Oh, certainly.
Yeah, have you, with the POWs, have you ever, I'm sure you've had some opportunities to meet those fellas.
Oh, most certainly.
And how do you think that they have, just like you have, kept going throughout all these years and one foot in front of the other? What do you think is the best thing that we can do to make sure POWs and MAAs are never forgotten, Sammy?
Just welcome them home.
Welcome them home.
That's make them feel it in their hearts. Just welcome them home.
And, for our Vietnam veterans that are listening today, I want to especially thank you guys, because you guys don't know how much of a difference you have made in today's military. You've been the catalyst of us not only getting the respect that we deserve that many of you did not get, but you've also been the catalyst in making sure that everybody's service is never forgotten.
That's fact. Yes, sir.
And Sammy,
that is a fact.
When you wear that medal around your neck and you're talking to all these people, what is most important to you that they understand?
That I wear the medal for them. My name is on the back of the medal. That just means that I'm the one responsible. So I try to take care of it, and I represent it the way I believe the people would want it to be represented. So that's what we try to do.
Did you, so you went back over to Vietnam, but
Yes, sir.
you also had a chance to go somewhere else as well. Did you get to go over to our wars at all, Sammy?
Oh, Iraq and Afghanistan? Yes, sir. I went early. That's been over 20 years ago that I got to go over there.
Yeah, so tell me a little bit about that. So, I mean, you know, you're a Vietnam veteran, and somehow you work your magic with all your friends in high places, and you got to go over, and I think you said your name was John Smith?
Jim
Smith. Okay. All right.
We shouldn't be telling everybody that, though.
Whoops, I didn't want to say too much. But I remember when we were talking in the car that morning, and we were talking about that, and I was just, I was amazed that you went over to help the morale with our guys.
Well, I wanted to go talk to the troops, and that was the only way that I could really get over there, so that's what I used, and I did it. And I talked to the troops and encouraged them to hang on.
Now, were they artillery guys or just infantry guys?
Everybody. I talked to all the military.
All the military. And
Yes.
what were they like when they saw that you had come to speak with them? I mean, I can only imagine, like, when I was over there, I got to meet Conan O'Brien and a few other guys that came to do like the comedian tours in Al Assad or, you know, some other places. But I could only imagine if a living Medal of Honor recipient was in Iraq with me, what that service member must be thinking. But the boosted morale that you would cause just seems like it'd be astronomical from
What's really cool is that I in the airport a few weeks ago, and a guy walked up and said, "Sergeant Davis." And I didn't have my uniform on in the airport, but he recognized me. He said, "Sergeant Davis, you came to see me when I was in Afghanistan and encouraged me to stand up for what I believe is right." And he is out of the military now, but he's still traveling and speaking to the troops all over America. And I said, "Well, thank you. That's serving the best we can do, and we do that."
Yeah, well, I was just talking to Jake Rademacher from the movie Brothers at War and Brothers After War. And we were talking about the wood shops, or not wood shops, the workshops that the Gary Sinise Foundation backs up and that they do across the nation. Have you ever been to one of those?
Yes, sir. I've had the privilege of attending several.
Several. And so,
yes, sir. I look forward to being able to do it again.
Yeah, there's one coming up June 14th in Chicago, from what I understand, and I almost am thinking about going to it as well. But
it would be worthy.
What is it about that workshop that you think is
it encourages it encourages the troops to come in and take part and talk about what's in their heart, and everybody starts sharing, and the more that they share, the more it opens other people up, and it's good for everybody. I love it.
And so, are you still the ambassador to the Gary Sinise Foundation?
Yes, sir. I'm still a ambassador, definitely. It's an honor to serve in that position.
And so these workshops that they do coming up, and that whole two movies, it kind of gives you the full circle of 20 years later, Jake goes and he embeds himself with, some units over in Iraq. And then 20 years later, he goes and finds these guys and he sees what the real issues and the real problems are.
Right.
Is there anything else like that around the nation that does that? Or has there been anybody?
I hope there is. At the moment, my mind's not there, so I can't tell you any names, but I hope that there is.
Well,
it is very effective.
I was telling Jake, I said, you know how much of a help it would be if, our mental health clinics at the VA or our, wards, when you go to do a 30-day inpatient because things just aren't right. If they had those two movies on hand and they had the opportunity to show these veterans that they're not alone and that, there's other people just like you that are suffering with some of the same things, whether it's survivor's guilt or things that happen overseas, those traumatic moments, or
Definitely. Yes, sir.
After transitioning, getting back, when you reach those dark spots, and I've got to only imagine that you've met some of those dark spots in the past. What was it?
Definitely.
What was it for you that kept those things going? Like, that helped you get out of those ruts?
Talking with the troops, talking to people about it, answering real life questions. It was the troops coming back don't want to talk about it because they think in their heart that, well, if we don't talk about it, it'll go away. Well, it doesn't go away. So encourage them to stand up and talk about it with your fellow veterans, and it helps.
I think we could all do a little bit more of that. And what I really like about those films is it not only focused on the veteran, it focused on the families as well, what a kid would feel like when they deploy and come back. And I think that probably hit a home for a lot of servicemen and women throughout the nation if they went to those workshops.
Oh, definitely. It's good for them, and it's good for all the other people that see it and hear it. And it's wonderful. It builds everybody up. You don't lose until you quit trying.
Yeah, and like I said, that book that you wrote is probably one of the most motivating books that I've read in quite a while. I'm not a big reader, but it didn't. I couldn't stop reading that book just because. I mean, with the whole life story in there, it definitely made a huge impact, and I'm sure that book has made a huge impact on many people throughout the nation. Are you have any, here it is, years later, have you ever thought about writing another book?
Well, I've thought about it, just haven't. With being on the road 200 days a year, it doesn't give me a whole lot of time to just sit around and write another book. So I keep encouraging. I'm writing my book by traveling all over America and encouraging America to stand up. That's the energy that I'm using.
So, I could only imagine, traveling 200 days a year, but the gratification that you can get when you actually can help people like the way you're helping them is just got to give you the energy.
Those people that will come up to me, like in the airport a few weeks ago, and it just makes your heart so good. Well, and your heart just going, that's why you do this, Sam, because you help people. Well, I'm going to continue helping people as long as the Lord has me here and gives me the strength to do it.
Well, I know I appreciate what you're doing, and I know our nation appreciates what you're doing. And they just opened up a Medal of Honor museum. What was that?
Yes, sir. That was fantastic. And it's so beautiful. I mean, I've seen a few museums in my life, and going down and being part of the opening ceremony was just unbelievably fantastic. They did such a wonderful job. It's beautiful. Please go see it.
And where is that located in Texas?
Dallas,
Texas.
Yes, sir.
So if you're listening to this podcast and you live anywhere near Dallas, or you're going on a vacation,
they can just Google the Dallas Medal of Honor Museum, and it's Dixie just said it's not Dallas. It's just outside of Dallas, isn't it? Yeah, it's not in Dallas. But that's where you fly into and then take a cab to the museum.
Okay. Yeah. No.
The National Medal of Honor Museum.
And that's the first one of its kind, correct? Or is there another one?
Well, now we just dedicated another one. Where's that one at, Dixie?
I think Doug says it's in Washington, D.C. I haven't been to either of them, and I'm kind of feeling like I'm left out here. I think that would be a great place to visit and take my kids.
It's definitely worth it. Definitely worth it.
And so they have, shadow boxes of every Medal of Honor recipient?
Yes. Yes, sir. Everybody has given things that people send in, and they'll put in the boxes, and it's just, wow. Go around every corner. It's, wow, look at that. Wow, look at that. It's great. Arlington, Texas is where the Texas Medal of Honor is. Yeah, Arlington.
So did you put some of the fichettes or some of the metal in yours, or?
Yes, sir, I did.
Now, when I was reading that book, you said that when you're in the hospital, you sent all that stuff home.
Yes, sir, I
did. And did you ever imagine that you'd be putting it in a shadow box for everybody to read and learn about?
Well, I never thought about it back then, but it's just in a little glass case here, and very few people get to see it, so I can put it in the museum, and everybody can see it.
Well, I think that is very unique and awesome that everybody puts their personal items from either Vietnam or Iraq, Afghanistan, or Korea.
Yes, sir.
And it helps when that person sees that, kind of feel what, the cost of freedom is.
Definitely, yes, sir.
And
freedom is not free.
Freedom is not free. No, it is not. I mean, there's many people that have paid their lives to give us these freedoms. So,
yes, sir.
Well, Sammy, I really appreciate you coming on Warfighters United podcast, and
I appreciate the job you always do, brother.
And I hope that someday here in the future we'll get to see each other again.
Yes, sir. Looking forward to it.
And as soon as that I find out the exact dates for everything going on, feel free if you are in town, because I know you travel a lot. But we would love to have you up at the dedication. 160 years to the date. It was awarded, the 21st Regiment Civil War Battle Flag was awarded July 4th, 1865. And awesome. Here it is, 160 years to the date. We might be awarding it back to Ionia for its permanent spot to stay, to where every person, schools, go visit it. And it will be there on public display. It doesn't cost anything. Anybody can walk into the courthouse and see it. And, if you guys are listening right now, we have a new website out. It's called warfightersunited.com. It has every link that you can think of on there, from Semper Fi Fund, America's Fund, 22 Project, VFW, American Legion. It also has a lot of transitional programs like Focus Marines Foundation, Semper Fi Odyssey, free 7-day transitional programs at no cost to our guys, one in Pennsylvania, one in St. Louis. And so everything that we can do to help our veterans not only thrive, but transition with great success is what we're trying to do. And so, Sammy, you're always a great motivation. And, keep doing what you're doing. You are probably the best bestower of our nation's highest award. And it's always a pleasure to speak with you.
Always a pleasure to speak with you, brother. Look forward to seeing you again soon.
Oh, yeah. Now, I'm hoping, like I said, in September, too, I know Doug and I would love to have you up there at Legends Ranch on September 5th, Doug? September 5th of next year. So
I think, Sam, you're going to be in Indianapolis talking with the state police that day.
Oh.
I believe so, yes, sir.
Oh, even talking to the state police.
I had to ask the boss, the young lady, Dixie.
Yes.
The loveliest lady. And she said, no, he's busy that day, but next year. So I did put you guys in contact with him. So let's cross our fingers. Maybe the good Lord will do us some work.
Yes, sir.
No, and you can't do anything without the guy upstairs. So,
well, yes, sir.
Hoorah, Sammy. And
all right. Well, great talking with you, brothers. Take care.
Yeah. Thank you, Sammy. Have a nice afternoon.
Y'all too now. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.